just what does it take for the Supreme Court judge to be removed from office? What are the grounds that, need to be met before this happens? And yeah, so we'll start with the grounds there. And the first one there is inability to perform the functions of office arising from mental or physical incapacity. And that this is really with very many offices. Even as we're looking at the impeachment of the president, this also is one of the things that, one of the grounds really that come about when it comes to state offices, and that is the inability to perform the functions of office arising from mental or physical incapacity. Whether Justice MARAGA, has any challenges mentally or physically? Of course, maybe not. But let's move on to the next one there. Breach of code of conduct prescribed for judges of the superior courts by an act of parliament. So that is another ground that it has to be an act of parliament because there was a breach of conduct of the code of conduct by the judges. This code of conduct has been prescribed for the judges. This is the framework really that they should be working around. And therefore, if that happens, then, the judge can be removed from office. Moving on there, you have bankruptcy, which is also something that we've seen with many other state officials, that this is one of the grounds that they have to fulfill to be able to be removed from office, bankruptcy. And then you have incompetence there and gross misconduct or misbehavior. So we're yet to see just what grounds maybe Ngunjiri Wambugu is going to be looking at to remove the CJ from office if indeed his petition is accepted and admissible by the JSC, and if he's able to really provide the evidence that he needs to do so. Let's move on and just take a look at the next part here, and just looking at the process, the Judicial Service Commission acting on its own motion. Now, talking about the JSC, it's very important to note that the Supreme Court judge, that's the Chief Justice himself, is actually part of the Judicial Service Commission, together with another judge, Isaac Lenaola. They are part of the Judicial Service Commission, and they will be acting on their own motion. Any person can petition the Judicial Service Commission, and that's why the Nyeri Town Member of Parliament has come out to say that he's, in the process of, petitioning the JSC to remove the CJ David Maraga from office. So this really is the process. Let's just move on to the next one, and here we'll be talking about just still about the process that this petition by the person, if satisfied, if the JSC is indeed satisfied, it forwards the petition to the president. All right, so that is the next part of the process. If the JSC is satisfied with the grounds and maybe the evidence that has been brought forward by any petitioner, it forwards this particular petition to the president, and then the president constitutes a tribunal within 14 days and then suspends the judge. So during these 14 days, the judge is suspended as the president constitutes that tribunal, which will be looking into those allegations and look into the investigations of the grounds that this petition really is going to be standing on, whether it's bankruptcy, whether it's incompetence, whether it's breach of code of conduct. Well, those grounds will be, of course, investigated by this tribunal within 14 days. Let's continue and look at the next process there. And there you go, the tribunal for the CJ. So really, who comprises this particular tribunal? Then you have the Speaker of the National Assembly, who is the chairperson. So this time we're talking about Justin Muturi, who's the Speaker of the National Assembly. He is part of that tribunal. Then you have 3 Superior Court judges from the common law jurisdiction. So you have other 3 Superior Court judges who will also be part of this tribunal that will be looking into that petition to remove the CJ. Let's continue on forward. And we continue with the tribunal, just who exactly is in. So apart from the Speaker, apart from the 3 Superior Court judges, we have 1 advocate of 15 years standing and 2 other persons with experience in public affairs. So this is very important, that 15 years experience is needed for 1 advocate together with 2 other persons with experience in public affairs. You also have the tribunal makes, so this after this tribunal, of course, comes together for 14 days. It makes binding recommendations to the president, and that's where the president will see if indeed the CJ, should leave office or should stay. So really, that's the process. The tribunal that includes the Speaker, 3 Superior Court judges, together with 1 advocate of 15 years and 2 other persons with experience in public affairs, coming together for 14 days. And after that, their submissions or their recommendations are made to the president, and proper action is taken. So that's just the process of how to remove the CJ. Whether it will get to this point, we wait to see just what the kind of case that Ngunjiri Wambugu is going to be putting across against the CJ before the JSC, the Judicial Service Commission. All right, so that is the process. This is one of the top stories that we have been following up for you here on the show. One other developing story is that, remember today, apart from all this, NASA was supposed to be meeting the IEBC together with Jubilee. Jubilee said that it will not make it for that meeting. NASA, on the other hand, said it will also not be part of that meeting. Duncan Hayemba is going to be updating us on that, in the next hour with my colleague Nick Wambua. And yeah, so that's another top story that we have been focusing on. All right, so that's where we wrap up this edition of News Center. Thank you very much for watching. It has been a pleasure being your host. We'll do this again tomorrow. Till then, my colleague Nick Wambua is coming up to continue with our coverage in Kiswahili. He's going to be putting all this into focus and also just getting to hear the views from the common Mwananchi down from the grassroots level, what their reactions to this petition to remove the CJ really are. All right.